know Friday sometimes is a bit tricky for a lot of people, including myself, because Friday is generally reserved for my children and my wife. I'm married, very proudly so. Love my wife. She's added so much value in my life. I always tell people that after salvation, the best gift from God is my wife. Amen. Because through the journey my wife and I have been together, I learned a lot about myself. You may think you know yourself until you're married. You may think that you're the sweetest thing ever until you're married. And another person tell you how cruel you can be at times, right? Or how inconsiderate you can be at times. Therefore, I'm truly grateful to God for my wife, because through the journey we've been on together for the last 10 and a half years, I've been exposed to myself. Therefore, on a daily basis, I strive to be a better man, because I want my wife to experience God through me. And the reason why I say that is because I often go to marriage seminars and I hear the debate that often takes place there, most especially being raised by women, on the subject of submission. I know this is not about marriage. We're talking to young people about debt to profit and the entrepreneurial journey as well. But just allow me just for less than a minute to say, you often go to marriage seminars and you hear most women complaining about submission, most especially in the modern era where many women occupies positions of influence, and some of them are even earning more than the men. Yeah. And therefore now they say, what do we submit to? I often say, and I used to say this a lot when I was young, it's something that I trained myself on, was to say, God, let your word have an absolute authority in my life. Yeah. If there's one thing that convicts me, if there's one thing that I live by, is the word of God. Therefore, I don't try to apply common sense in a lot of things, but I try to apply the word of God. Therefore, when the Bible says the man is the head of the family, I take it in its purest form. I don't have to think about it, what it means. But also, when the Bible says, men, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Christ died for the church. Therefore, when I'm saying through the journey then of marriage, my desire is for my wife to see God through me, it's to manifest the Christ kind of love. Because, Christ loved us so much that then he was willing to lay himself down. Therefore now, when my firstborn son was born, both my wife and I were first-time parents. And what I then used to do was to say, for as long as then I am at home, I'm the guy who will look after my son. Even at night then, though we had a cot, but when the baby is very small, the baby doesn't necessarily sleep in the cot. It's a Western thing. We must have a cot, we must buy drawers, we must have all this fancy stuff, right? Because now we're in this, suburban environment. We want to fit in with the Joneses, therefore we want to buy the cot. But then when my son was smaller, then now, you had those Moses basket. For now, he'll sleep by my side. Because according to me, then I was on duty. Yeah. You know what I mean? I didn't come now with this philosophy that, used to be exhibited by Phil's dad and Zechariah's dad, because they're older, right? Yeah. To say, no, the man doesn't look after, the baby. The man doesn't change the nappies. Yeah. I was the guy who was happy to change nappies. You know what I mean? But the reason why, it's because for me, it was a demonstration of love. It was an opportunity to say, this is not my wife's baby, but this is our baby. Yeah. And therefore now, I was the first guy to wake up when I hear the child sneeze. No, not cough, but sneeze. Because for me, it was like, this guy is dependent on us. Therefore now when he's uncomfortable, I must be the guy who wakes up and check. And most of the time will gravitate towards grabbing the bottle and say the child is hungry, even if the child just wants to, play and do whatsoever. But I'm trying to say, we as children of God, in everything that we do, we must take the word of God in its literal sense. And we must pray, because it is not easy, to allow the word of God to have absolute authority over our lives. I'll repeat that. It is not easy for Sisvuyo, who earns 105,000 rand, and the husband brings 28,000 rand a month, for her then to submit, because now she earns the money. She brings, and as the young people, Abu Brafil will say, she makes the pot, right? Therefore now, why should I submit to this guy? But that's where we actually miss the blessing of God. Because there is a blessing in doing. And when I speak about the word of God, there is a scripture, I think in the book of James, that says, if you know how to do good and you do not do good, you are sinning before God. Yeah. Therefore now, doing good is being inobedient to the word of God. Mm-hmm. Okay, full stop, cut. I'm done. Therefore now, I was invited tonight to come speak to the young people. Welcome all you young people. You know what I mean? Even those who are in absentia, because they are watching this, right? Therefore, I'm feeling hot now. I think the heat is on. Therefore, I'm going to take off my jacket, right? Then now, firstly, who am I? Because Brother Phil earlier on said I mustn't introduce myself because I'll get ample time to actually introduce myself. I just want to see if I can get my phone, right? Great. I do have my phone. Therefore, who am I? Just like Hezekiah, I'm from Mpumalanga, right? I was brought up, I was raised in a small town called Carolina. That's where I come from. It's the last town before you get to the Swaziland border, if you use the Oshuk border. Most people from Joburg going to Swaziland, right? Obviously, people used to go to Swaziland when I was growing up, but these days people hardly go there because they don't want to go there. They scared Abo Vuyo, Nabo Zipiwe, that Umswati will grab them and make them abo 15, abo 18 wife, you know what I mean? But it's okay. But I'm from that place called Carolina. I grew up in the dusty streets of Silobela Township. I was raised by my grandmother most of my life. I do have a mother, but being the firstborn child who was born outside of marriage, you'll generally then stay with Ugogo when then your mom gets married, right? I was that kid, Did I feel unloved? Never. I never felt like I should have gone with mom at Mchatweni. No, never felt, because I had a super stark great Magogo. My grandmother was everything. She was my mother, she was my father, she was my mentor, she was just everything. She had so much wisdom. And yeah, I miss her dearly because I felt like she was one of those people who were gone too soon, according to me, because she didn't eat my money. You get what I'm saying? She didn't really experience the hard work or the fruits of her hard work, in essence. You know what I mean? She left in 2006, and at that time, it was my third year of working, or still finding my feet, and all of those kind of things. But I was raised by a grandmother. I got born again in 1997, right? A year after you, Mom's sponsor. Yes. Though we same age, you got born again before me. Yes. Okay. Assemblies of God. I was sharing with the brothers last week during the men's service. I missed last night. You know. Yes. Hopefully you guys recorded something because I hear last night was powerful. But I used to not like the Assemblies of God until I got born again. Maybe for the reason why you went out of Assemblies of God when you got to varsity. Because for me, the Assemblies of God was not too far from my grandmother's house. Therefore, I used to see these Bazalane from Assemblies of God going to church every Sunday. They were the most boring people in my township. I'm being honest, right? They were the most boring. There was nothing exciting about them. They didn't look excited to be even going to the house of God. You know what I mean? They were like, no, these ones. Therefore, I said, you know what? If it was to happen that I get born again, there's one church I'll never go to. It's the Assemblies of God. And guess what? When the revival came to my township in 1997, it was Pastor Ntlapo, the GNF, because he was the big Back to God crusade. He was with Pastor Gumbi and a few other pastors. Therefore, I got born again. President Ntlapo was preaching, and then he called, there was Pastor Mabuza, who had a very beautiful way of doing altar call, you know? Therefore, he sang a song that I'll never forget because obviously I got born again. The song said, Wenamoni, it said, Wenamoni uzotini na, right? Which means, you sinner, what will you say one day when you are in hell? Therefore, it says then you'll be crying, maye, maye. I was like, geez, hell, crying. Let me go to the front. I don't want to go to hell. You know what I mean? But it was a very interesting thing. Therefore, Brother Phil earlier on asked one interesting fact about you, right? Therefore, the day I got born again on the same day with the young lady, because I was 1997, how old I was? Maybe 15, 16, somewhere 15, 14, somewhere there, right? But then now, I already knew about love, you know? I knew about boyfriends and girlfriends. But I got born again on the same day as the lady that I had loved all my life as a 14-year-old. And guess what my friend said? Said, you saw that girl going forward, and you followed. And you thought, this is the only way you can get this girl. You know what I mean? And guess what? We became good friends after that, you know? Yes, the story shall be continued one day because it's being recorded. Anyway.
The wife will watch.
No, the wife can watch. There's no problem. You know what I mean? It's the reality. There's reality. There's the past that we all come from. We can't change the past, right? It's about the future. Then now, I finished matric 1999 in a township school. I was taught English in Zulu. Though we were Swati, at home we'll speak Siswati. Then you get to school, you speak Zulu, or you are being taught Zulu. Yeah. Now there was a problem. Because now, in the olden days, we used to have, when it came to languages, you had the first paper, second paper, and the third paper. And in the first paper, then you had to do the letter and the comprehension passage. And therefore now, we people who were confused, right? Because now you're supposed to write it in Zulu, and then now you speak Siswati at home. It was just a mush-mash. You know, it was a mess. But then by God's grace, I passed. You know, I passed. I never got an A, guys, in high school. Unlike some of my friends, you know, no A. But I was lucky. I got 4 B's and 2 C's. And in those olden days, Profil, then things were slightly different from when you matriculated. Because you guys had just one paper. Yeah. For who will choose between a standard grade and a higher grade and all of those kind of things, you know. If I didn't have a maths teacher when I was in matric, because the guy who taught me mathematics in grade 11, then he took a senior post within the department. Therefore, we're left without a maths teacher. Therefore, we spend most of our matric year teaching ourselves mathematics. For now, I had to take mathematics in standard grade, not in higher grade, because I didn't have a maths teacher. You know what I mean?
But the rest of the subjects I took on higher grade, except mathematics and economics. And the reason why I took economics on standard grade, because I can't cram, I can't memorize stuff. And with economics, then you had to write 2 assignments in the exam. And they expect you, word for word, to take what is in the textbook and put it down. If I can't cram. And that is why then before even now, when I come to preach, I know the word. But don't ask me before I come to preach to give you the verse. And say it word for word, because that's my weakness. I can't cram. You know, I take the word, I apply it, I can tell you the word, but it's not going to be word for word. And that is why then before preaching, I will then go through, I've got my own way of prepping. And then I will be in the pulpit, I'll give you the word. But for me, I go through a very painful exercise to do that. You know what I mean? Because I can't cram. You know what I mean? But then I took business economics on higher grade. Because with business economics, it was different from economics. They will say, explain it the way you understand. Yeah. Therefore, now do that. You know what I mean? So that's me. Finished metric, went to vets. I did a BCom accounting, right? BCom accounting, and it was a 3-year degree for a finished record time. For now, I had an option then to do the honors to become a CA, but then being the firstborn, once again, you know, of 6 children, that's from my mother's side, not my dad's side, because I only met my dad when I was old, you know, like when I was doing matric, I met my dad, then he had his own, like, football team. For now, I have too many siblings, you know what I mean? I think my dad, the last time we were counting, he had 8 or 9 children, because some they just pop out of nowhere, you know, like, that's my dad. He was an irresponsible guy, you know, even if he watches, he knows, you know. And now there was pressure on my side, because when I was doing my 3rd year, my sister, who comes after me, then had to join me at Vets. And my stepdad said, no, this girl must go get married. And I was like not happy, because there was a guy, you know, Bazalwane likes to get married at an early age. Or they used to back then where I grew up. For now, there was a guy who came to ask for my sister's hand in marriage. After she just finished matric. I was livid. I was like, it's not going to happen. Because in my view and in my world at the time was that if this thing doesn't work out, she's going to become my burden. Yeah. If I told my stepdad, she's coming to study at Vets. Luckily, I had a bursary. Then I had a bit of money. And then we applied for NSFAS as well. I will cook, dude. I stayed at in Bramfontein Center. My sister was at what used to be called back then JCE, which is the education campus in Parktown. Yeah, therefore, I was the famous brother, you know, because I was like the cook, because I was staying in a self-catering. My sister will come to eat. I'll cook, and like after KEF, we'll go to KEF on Sunday evening. Then she'll come with all the friends to collect now the supper. Because they wouldn't want to eat the dining hall food because it was not nice. They want to eat my food, you know? That's my story, you know? Like to give yourself to whatever your hand finds to do. That's what the Word of God says. Yeah. And the Bible strictly speaks that we must never grow weary in well-doing. Doing well. You know what I mean? And there's a scripture that I've been really pondering on since Monday. Because Messibles, I was preaching on Monday. Guys, I have heard Romans 12, 1, 2. But it has never convicted me like it did on Monday. And I spent then the rest of the week reading Romans 12. But not 1 and 2. Because I did on Monday process it and I went through it. But from verse 3 to the last verse. Yeah. It's a powerful a chapter in the Bible that we hardly spend time on. But it speaks about, or it continues where the Bible says, never grow weary in well-doing. Yeah. You know? And for me, I learned that from a young age. I took on the responsibilities at a very young age of being a father to my siblings, because my stepdad was there, but he was not the best father, my siblings had, because my mom was the second wife. Therefore, she was in a polygamous marriage. Therefore, it was tough, growing up and being raised by my grandmother, who was fantastic, but she didn't have a lot. But she had beautiful lessons. And it's those lessons that today I live by. They've influenced me since I was a kid. One of the things that I enjoyed and I loved about my grandmother was truth. Truth said, I'm not the most skillful who will do gardening. I was not like in Zulu say, umuntu okhuthele. It was not me. I was the laziest kid. I'll take a spade, right? And I'll try to do gardening, but after, just going like this twice, I'll complain about my back. Therefore, my grandmother said, you know what, my child, I think you should stick to school. And then you will hire people, to work for you. And therefore, I took that in its literal sense. Because I knew, even today, the person who will do the fixing in my house, it's not me. No, it's not me. My wife is an engineer, therefore she likes wearing overalls. Therefore she can do it. And I'm happy to finance another person coming through to do the stuff. It's not me. And later on when I share about the entrepreneurial journey, I say, play to your strength, not to your weakness. I'm not going to try to be a super dad who does gardening and painting. That's not me. But I can sit with my son, like the reason why I didn't come to the men's session last night. It was my son's first speech today at school. For now, he had to speak about stuff I don't know about, but stuff that I was happy to go research and sit down with him and prep him up. He was talking about space. What would you pack on your journey to space? Therefore, it was interesting. We had to watch YouTube videos, learn more about space, because it's not something that I've been interested in. I don't know much about the space thing. It doesn't interest me because it doesn't bring me money. I'm interested on the subject of money. I love money. I want to have money. That's the stuff that interests me, Mercy Boss. Don't ask me about, what do they call these people that goes to space? Astronauts and all of these kind of things. It doesn't interest me. I'm only learning these things through my kids, because now they watch all these YouTube videos. If I see it and my son talks too much like the father, for now he tells you a lot about this thing. Therefore, my journey into the entrepreneurial world, right? Because your topic is broad. It is. For I can pick and choose what I want to speak about. But it said from debt to profit. And then speaks about entrepreneurial, But let me tell you guys my journey of entrepreneurship. And I'm hoping through telling you my journey, it will touch on what you guys invited me for. Okay. Firstly, I worked in the banking sector. I had to then do my honors after leaving Wits. I did my honors then at UNISA. And then I started working at what was then SCMB, which is Standard Corporate and Merchant Bank. So I started working. I'd signed a training contract with an auditing firm, but whilst I was doing my VAC work, I realized that I'm not a policeman. Because that's what auditors does, right? You're chasing people, checking if there was the right signature on the invoice. That's the most boring stuff. Even in my company, I don't follow processes today. I hate processes. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not that guy. Yes, today I can speak to you, I can tell you I'm a chartered accountant, but I'm not the process guy. And that is why then I didn't qualify through audits and all of these things. And I hardly tell people I'm a chartered accountant. Do you know what I mean? People like to flaunt it. To me, it's just a means to an end, and that's it. I see myself as a banker turned entrepreneur. That's who I am. Because I spend most of my time in banking, And therefore, I was lucky then, after maybe 4 years of working And then I said, okay, I'm tired of banking. I went to join MTN. At MTN, I was in the management accounting department. And they were then introducing a pilot program where everybody within management accounting must then do a qualification called CIMA, which is the Chartered Management Accountant qualification. It's a UK-based qualification. First, one of the few guinea pigs that were thrown into the program, and then I was blown away by the content. Therefore, after work, we'll go for classes somewhere in Morningside, evening classes. And then I was like, why I didn't know about this thing when I was growing up in the townships. Yes, at VETS, when we were doing management accounting, some of the questions they will say CIMA adapted. But they didn't really know much. We only knew about the CASA stream as the only means of becoming a chartered accountant. And only to find out later that there's so many options to becoming a chartered accountant. Okay. But I was blown away by the CIMA content. And there and there, I was like, one day I'll start a school that will teach people or lead to people to becoming chartered management accountants. That's what happened with me. Therefore, you can say being at the right place at the right time or luck doesn't matter, right? But that was in 2008. And in 2013, I'm working now for Nedbank. I'm back in banking. I'm minding my own business. At the time, my base salary and my bonuses, 7 figures already. And you can think 2013 how old I was, not married, don't have too many things happening in my life. You know what I mean? Actually, I was married 2013. Yeah, 2013 I was already married. Yeah. So I got married 2012. But I didn't have much because after getting married, my wife and I was like, I don't want children for now. Because you see now, as a strict Assemblies of God person, don't live together before getting married. And then now all of a sudden it is this person coming into your space. Yeah, it felt like that to some degree because I was already 30 years. When I got married, I was 30. If you've lived by yourself for this long, and she's lived by herself for that long because she got married when she was 27. And both of us, we think we have found the formula. You know what I mean? And now you come, you get married, and like, geez, it's like you're starting from scratch. You know, you're starting from scratch. But we didn't have kids, therefore I was like, okay, I can take the gamble, you know? But what happened is that I was listening to talk radio, I think it was Power FM or 702, and Bladen Zimando was being interviewed. He was telling the country that in that particular year, following the release of the 2012 matric results, remember now the matric results will be released in Jan. Therefore he says, okay, universities will take 120,000 first years, and FET colleges will take 100,000 first years. But the previous week, Angie Mucheha had said there were 420,000 kids who passed matric. But did the maths, it meant 200,000 kids will not have space in institutions of higher learning. That's how my first business was born. But I had prepared for it. I kind of had an idea of what I would like to do. For some of you guys, you may not know what you want to do. Some of you guys know what you want to do. But the thing I've learned as a Christian, because, you know, Christianity informs everything that I do. And when I say Christianity, I mean the Word of God, you know. I just believe that nothing happens just or by mistake. Why? Because we learn in Romans 8, right? Somewhere, 28. All things work together for good for them that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose, right? Oh, I know a verse. Huh? I can clap. You know that. Yeah. But the thing is this. If all things, not some things, from me taking a detour to go to MTN, right? Because I was at MTN for 14 months, literally, for 14 months. Then I went back to banking. And the reason why I didn't stay that long at MTN is because, you know, when I joined MTN, I was very ambitious. I was like, I must be the CFO by a particular age and all of that. When I get to MTN, I join as a management accountant. Then they restructure, they remove the titles of management accountants. Now they have assistant finance managers. Then now I report to this guy. His name is Hiren Path. He's Indian. He's from Lenasia. He's the finance manager. I'm now the assistant finance manager. But he reports to a senior manager called Dipti Patel. The senior manager reports to a GM called Nadia Ali. Nadia Ali reports to a guy called Zunaid Bulbulia. No, the problem is that CFO was not far. But I was not from Durban, nor was I from Lenasia. That was my problem. I could, pay the school fees and wait for my turn. But I realized I needed to be from Durban. I needed to be from Lenasia or Mayfair or somewhere. And there was no way I could change myself. Yeah. And that is why I was only there for 14 months. Yeah. What is the lesson there? Know what you want. And go for it. But be flexible, to move to other things or to change companies when what you want is not there. Because me, I'm a realist, Like I saw, guys, I needed to be from a particular background for me to make it here. And I remember in the year I was at MTN, there was a report released by the Employment Equity Forum. Jimmy Manyu was the chairperson at the time. It said in South Africa, Indians are about 2% of the population. But at MTN, they were 38%. You know what I mean? Of the workforce. Therefore, I realized that, geez, I needed to do something different. I'm ambitious, I've got an ambition, but my ambition was controllable, but I had to be realistic. You know what I mean? Therefore, at MTN, the only thing I went for when I reflect was to be introduced to SEMA, which then eventually gave birth to the first business. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But then I start my school, 2013, after listening to Blade. But I'm working full-time at Nedbank. You see? Therefore now trying to juggle the two was not that easy. But then it meant I had to be flexible in a sense that I then left my house at 6:15 every morning, go to the office, work until around 4:4 latest. Because they knew I get to the office early, flexible working hours. They didn't start now with COVID. They've been there. Then now, I will then go focus on my business from 4:30 onwards. You see? For I created capacity. Yes, I was married, but then there were no children, which is fine. You see, it's additional because children, they come with another level of commitment. So my business was born. I work on my business plan. I wrote my own business plan because now I had my MBA, because I finished my MBA 2011, 2012, somewhere there. For now, I used whatever I learned in strategic marketing to put together my business plan. Now, see, I said to Ms. Siboza the other day, the MBA will do nothing for you, but it's what you do with the MBA. Because sometimes we walk around saying, I'm a graduate from UCT, I'm a graduate from VET. That will only allow you to put your foot at the door. But after that, it's up to you. You know what I mean? If I start my business 2013, and the way I was so structured, I put together a board. I invited about 5 individuals who brought different skills from what I had. So I got a lady who was coming from a technology experience. I brought in a guy called Togozano who was the civil engineer. I brought a lawyer and just, a diverse group of people to then advise me, on this journey. Yes, I had a full-time job, but now I was preparing. 2014, we opened our doors to the masses. Somewhere in downtown Johannesburg. Same building where the Carlton Gym was. Today it's called the Gym Company, in town. Just behind the Carlton Center. That's where we open our doors. Obviously, later I'll learn about location. We're in the wrong location. That was the first mistake that one made. Location is everything. For those who've studied a bit of marketing, in marketing we speak about the 4 P's of marketing. It's what makes your strategy. And the 4 P's speaks to your product, your pricing, your place, which speaks to your location, then promotion. For location is everything. If you're thinking about business, getting the right location is very important. I said to the board during the week, there's a potential place that is going on auction. Maybe we can buy that. But let me go see it. Then I realized that it was outside our catchment area as a church, right? Because it was in Robin Hills, the Randbeck, behind Randbeck, between Randbeck and Cresta, but closer to Cresta. I realized it's not going to work. But it's the issue of location, very important. For yes, we started the business. Therefore, now I wrote my business plan. It said I should be able to attract 0.01% of the kids who finish matric. Remember, there were 420,000 in 2012. Therefore, my business plan wanted only 250. That's what I wanted, 250. And I was like, if there's 200,000 kids who don't get absorbed by institutions of Highland, 250 in Joburg. Everybody, whether you're in Nelspruit, you are somewhere in Lusikisiki, when you get your statement, you want to go to Joburg. Therefore, I thought I should be able to attract 250 kids. Therefore, the way my business plan was structured, 250 full-time student and 40 part-time. Because I learned that most people who are familiar with SEMA, they actually know it as a postgraduate qualification. Therefore, I was like, okay, 250 and 40. And guess what happened? We opened our doors in Jan. There were only 6 full-time students. And about 44 part-time. If I exceeded my expectations on the part-time side of things, right? But I underperformed, overwhelmingly so, on the full-time. So now it meant the business plan was in the red on day 1. On day 1, I was supposed to pay a rental, a monthly rent of 95,000 ex-VAT, excluding services. Because I signed a 3-year lease, I was confident that my business plan made sense. And I was a child of God. I had so much faith that things were going to work out. That's the one thing you must know about me. I'm a faith guy. And I heard what you said earlier. We'll have a discussion. Because remember I said earlier, I thought that was around the Assemblies of God, Babor. Yeah. But also what I experienced when I got inside the church after getting born again is that they were the poorest. Yeah. And therefore I didn't want that kind of life. Yeah. And therefore now I was struggling. The Assemblies of God was known for preaching the authentic gospel. Yeah. Purity, holiness, but they never preach money. They never preach faith. Yeah. Therefore, their gospel was pure, but was imbalanced. Yeah. Because when you speak about the definition of salvation, it's holistic. Yeah. But it's a topic for another day. Yeah. But I didn't want that. And I was sharing with the pastor the other day that I was so close with the men of God in my local church who brought us up in the Lord. But then at that time, I knew that I had the calling of God. But I told this guy, because he was very open, he was older. At the time, in 1998, they were getting paid 2,900 rand. I was like, Mfundis, there is no way. I don't know how you live, but 2,900, that I will not accept. Calling or no calling. Me, the Bible that I read, no. It doesn't speak about 2,900. Yeah. Because I then started making a prayer, as young as I was at the time, 15, right? That God, they say these people at church, you are God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Can you please be my God? Because I've seen what you've done with Abraham. I've seen what we've done with Isaac and Jacob. But laba salone, laba bala, abahlupheka kangaka. Never. They don't reflect any of the things in the Bible. That was me. I took the word of God back to him. I said, can you then be my God? And therefore, I always knew, growing up, that I will see the manifestation of the word of God. Therefore, when I prepared for my business, I had the faith. I had the confidence in the word of God that I should attract 250. And guess what? I had a 6. But that didn't change my conviction and my belief and my trust in God. I worked hard. I labored. I then resigned at Nedbank in 2014. I submitted my resignation. I told my boss I'm leaving end of March. And guess what? I served one of the longest resignations at Nedbank. I served for a year. Because now when I was supposed to leave on the 1st of April, I looked at what was happening in my school and I realized that my wife's going to divorce me. Because the school was not doing well, and yet I want to leave my full-time employment. And I had one of the cushiest jobs. I used to be paid so much money. You know what I mean? Therefore, we're living comfortable. Therefore, now here I want to shock my wife, right? Therefore, I kept on telling my boss that now I'll leave next month. Next month. Next month. Until I left end of March 2015. But at the time, it meant now I had to have people employed in the business who will then, be there during the day, oversee the work. But what I learned is that they were not the founders of the business. They didn't share the vision I had for the business. To them, it was a job that gave them a salary to meet whatever needs and provide for their families. That's what it was. And that was the reason why I wanted to quit my job, because I saw the potential in the school, but the school was not where it was supposed to be. But then now, it's also about the process. What I learned in the process is that you may have a vision, you may have the faith, but there is a process. You can release your faith into the atmosphere because the Bible says, now faith is. Now, not tomorrow. Therefore, I had the belief, I knew that this thing will be successful. But there was the process. My wife always reminds me that the challenge that I had at that time is that I didn't have the processes. Remember I told you about me and processes? I didn't have the processes to say when the student come, therefore this is the induction pack, this is the timetable. I had the timetable, but I didn't have lots of these processes to take care of 250 students. It was only in 2014 when I was struggling. And my wife then had asked to be a housewife after we got married, and she went to do a master's full-time at Wits. But then because the business was struggling, I said, maybe come help. Then her being an engineer then helped us to put the processes to prepare for the harvest that will later come. Because if the harvest had come through in 2014 when we opened our doors for the public to come register, we would have been overwhelmed. We will not have coped because of my weakness. Because I'm not a process person. You see, that's what happened in my journey in business. Therefore, for 3 years, 2014, 15, 16, the business didn't make money. The business was struggling. I was renting about 1,100 square meter space in town from this Jewish guy who owned OPH properties. I saw this guy evicting tenants, locking doors. But this guy never locked the door for me for a single day. because I had to go somewhere in Tembisa today to help Brother Percy or to honor an invite, I wanted to bring in a thick set of documents that are in my office that I'll never get rid of. I got those 2 days after my son was born in 2016. It was summons from the sheriff of the High Court. On the 18th of November 2016, I was supposed to go to the Johannesburg High Court because now this guy had had enough of me. Right? For now, at some point, I owed the landlord 1.1 million of unpaid rent. You ask yourself why he didn't evict me and send me to the streets like he did. But I know, because I know about the story of Daniel being thrown into the lion's den. You know, it was just God. It was my process. You know what I mean? But this is what happened. I owe this guy 1.1 million. And at some point, I paid him. Because then now in my business, I had to sell equity. I sold 22% of my business to a venture capitalist for 2 million rand to raise now money. And that money went to pay the landlord. Yeah. But the reason why I was taken to the High Court in November was because the lease was coming to an end. And then I had already mentioned that I won't renew. Imagine, for 2.5 years, he didn't take me to court. But now, because the lease was coming to an end in December 2016, he was taking me to court. And what happened is that my wife was in the hospital because she gave birth through a C-section. Then I decided it's a Friday morning, let me go see the guys at the office. Then when I get there, I find my receptionist, she's crying. Mama V, why are you crying? You'll see when you get in your office, on your desk, there's some nice parcel for you. Then I open, it's the summons, right? Therefore, I said earlier on, I had a board, and one of the guys in the board was a lawyer. And the guy that I've known for some time, we used to go to the same church, we'd vet together, and so on. He sat on the board. If I got those summons, I read them. I didn't tell this guy. I didn't tell my wife when I got back to the hospital. I just kept it to myself. Was I stressed? Yes, I was. But the thing is, I was like, I'll deal with it on Monday. I'm supposed to be in a joyous mood. My son has just been born. Now I went home. Then on Monday morning, it's the first one to arrive at the office. I wrote a long email to my landlord. I CC'd their lawyers and everybody from the credit department. I pleaded. You know? I pleaded with them. I told them I acknowledge the summons, but I will pay them. How? I don't know, but I will pay them. Few days later, the sheriff of the court comes back. He brings another set of summons. But this time was to attach the furniture so that I'm unable to move. Remember what was the problem? Location. I needed to move. Therefore, he was a nice old white guy. He says to me, you know, sometimes these things become a bit tricky. Is it your personal laptop? Is it a company laptop? For now, he was hinting to me. Say, yeah, I'm here. We can walk around. We can take stock of the furniture. But it's up to you to tell me how many desks you have, how many chairs you have, whether the laptop you are using belongs to the company or it's yours. But that was favor. You know, it was favor. At the time, I was owing the landlord about 700,000. That was before then the December rent. I asked for a meeting with the landlord and his credit people. I went to see them. I told this landlord, I said, I'll be very honest with you. Your business development guys have asked me to sign, to renew the lease. I'm unable to renew the lease because I've realized that I'm in a wrong location. This business has a huge potential, but I can't stay in downtown Joburg. One of the biggest challenges we had in downtown Joburg was that there was no parking for our own students. Because now, as I said, most of the people end up being the working professionals. Over the years, the number increased. But then I was unable to attract the right color that pays on time, that pays up front. You guys hear me, right? Yeah. I'll attract Bob Rafil who wants to pay installments on installment, and those debit orders, they bounce, and all of that. Yes, the school was growing, but the collection was a problem. You know what I mean? And I told this guy, I told him there's potential. I said to him, I commit. Allow me to move with my furniture. I commit that I will pay you 300,000 end of January. This is a conversation end of November, beginning of Jan. I will pay you 300 and something thousand end of Jan, and then I'll give you 400,000 final installment in February. That's what I committed to. Guess what? He agreed. Because somehow, he just liked me. Though he was ruthless to everybody, but this guy was not ruthless to me. But I know it was the God I served that was dealing with him. Therefore, I moved. That was now beginning of 2017. After making that move, my business flourished. After just making the move to Braamfontein. That's all I moved. I moved to Braamfontein from downtown. My business flourished. We started making money. But for 3 years, we struggled. What happened is that following those summons, he then decided to be mean by blacklisting me and the board members. And he didn't tell us. We only found out sometime in 2017. We got blacklisted. You know, when you're blacklisted, you can't do anything. Therefore, I found myself then down there. You know what I mean? That was my journey. But, you know, when you are blacklisted, which means now there is a judgment against your name. You go read, they will tell you it takes 5 years for the judgment to be removed, or a default, it takes 2 years and all of that. But then if you want to go through the expensive process, you go to lawyers, will go to the court to rescind that judgment, as long as you can produce a proof of payment. For that was the option then I opted for in 2017. For today, Brafil speaks about that beautiful car, right? Yeah. But that beautiful car didn't just come because it came after a lot of hard work. What I learned in the journey of being an entrepreneur is that you need to have a vision. And your vision is yours. Never think that somebody else will buy into your vision. It's your vision. But what does a vision do? A vision is a picture of where you want to be in the future. That's what a vision is, right? Therefore, where do you see yourself in the next 3 years? I was always clear where I wanted to see myself. Yes, I had to endure painful challenges along the way. Obviously, when now you are faced with all of these challenges in business, it has an impact at home. The marriage got affected because now you don't have as much money as you used to have when you were at Nedbank, right? Therefore, now you are frugal. You know, you watch every single cent where it goes, and you complain about a 1 rand that the wife will ask for because you are emotional. You see there's no money. Therefore, everything suffers. But thank God, I can never take credit, but somewhere, somehow, God found a way of preserving our marriage. It was not easy, you know, but God did preserve it. You know, I guess the credit I can take is that I prayed about it. I always prayed about it, you know. I'll ask God for help. And I'll plead with my wife. I remember at one stage she packed up stuff, and therefore she was driving a buggy at the time. She went to sleep in the buggy. She was like, I've had enough of this thing. But in the morning, I went to the car, I knocked in the car, she opened, I brought her back home, you know. Therefore, these are some of the stories, Profil, they won't tell you, the married people, you know, the challenges that we go through. But come to me, I'm happy to share, you know. But it was tough. But as I said, finding the right location was the best. But what I also learned is that a vision challenges you as an individual, because you paint a picture of how you want to see the end, you know? Yeah. What it did for me, it showed me that I can never be complacent. Yeah. Because as they often say, as cliche as it may sound, that complacency breeds mediocrity. For me, it was like my motivation, you know, that vision, that picture of where I wanted to see myself. It was motivating me, and I really pushed, you know. And I also learned that there is no substitute for hard work. Yeah. I often hear people say, you must work smart. It's great. Yeah. It sounds powerful, but there's nothing that beats hard work. Yeah. Hard work to me, it meant I had to put in the hours. As my school was still new, it meant now I cannot afford to have as many teachers to teach our bread and butter students, which were the working class. It meant now I must challenge myself, try to teach as many subjects as possible. Because we had classes Monday to Thursday, so it meant every evening I must stand in front of students, I must teach. On Saturdays, I must be able to teach at least a minimum of 3 subjects. Yeah. And then I can hire people to supplement or complement. And that was it. You know what I mean? And through enduring that difficulty and moving then to Braamfontein, things turned for the better. We attracted more students. When we attracted more students, then the money started coming. And therefore, we paid all our debts within 3 months of having moved to Bram Park. And my staff who didn't know what it means to be paid on payday started being paid on payday. Because my staff knew that they get their salaries are broken into 2. They get paid on the last day of the month, and they get paid on the 45th of the month. Which means now, the 15th of the next month is still getting last month's salary. Yeah. That's what happened. That was the reality. But in 2017, all of that changed. But also, what I learned is that had I given up and said, let me go back to corporate because I had a cushy job, I'm a professional, I will not have realized the potential of the business. Yeah. Which means now, when you go into business, you must also be able to endure the difficulty. And sometimes it's difficult then to tell abazalwane to endure. You know what I mean? To persevere. But I think the book of James, it has the answers. Yes. It says, count it all joy, brethren, when you encounter. You know what I mean? But it's scriptural, you know, maybe on a Sunday you will hear it. You know, it's exciting, count it all joy. But when you are facing it, it's difficult. When you are blacklisted, it's difficult. When you realize that you don't have much, one day, and my wife will come and tell a story. In 2016, or 2015, yes, 2015, when I left the bank. Therefore, I had enough money to at least last the family 12 months. I speak that I had over R1 million. If according to me, it should have taken care of my family. But then now you realize that the business doesn't have rent if we take from the money. You know, within 3 months the money was gone because you had to invest it back into the business. But this is what I had done when I left the bank. I knew that my wife that year was turning 30 in 2015. So when she got married, she was 27. For I then now wanted to give her the best holiday present. I went, I booked the trip to Thailand and Singapore and Dubai. I paid for it. Then when now we're in Singapore, ready to board to go to Dubai. Then I tell my wife that all the money now is finished. She was very angry. She said, you could have avoided the trip and then spent the money, on essentials.
Yeah.
But to me, it was like I wanted to spoil her. But here she is now. We've enjoyed now. We've been everywhere. Now she's upset. You know what I mean? And when she comes, she'll tell you how a man thinks and how a woman thinks. Because we don't think the same. You know what I mean? Sometimes we, as men, we think for the now. Women think different, But it's a story for another day. Talking to young people, right?
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is that when you embark on the journey of entrepreneurship, you need to have a vision. But number two, you need to work hard. Number three, what I want us to be aware of when you embark on this journey is that you need to prepare for it. And preparing says the following, according to me. It says read about other entrepreneurs and their story. One of the greatest books that I've ever read is the biography of Elon Musk. Because in that, I was able to learn that as powerful as Elon Musk and how celebrated he is today, at some point he had lost everything. Yeah. There was just a day that was left for him to shut down his space business and fold it and say it's over. But he got a breakthrough. He used to sleep in the office. He used to put in the hours and all of that. Therefore, when I went into entrepreneurship, having read such stories, when I encountered challenges, I was like, oh, I'm like that guy. Nobody promised me that things will be delivered on a silver platter. As a child of God who believes, who claims, who proclaims, who speak the word, we're never promised that things will be easy. We were never promised, that things will be easy. Therefore, I literally took then what I read from other people, what I observed, and it helped me to prepare. But number two, under learning and preparing, also having a mentor helps. A mentor played a critical role in the second phase of my business, which was the growth phase. Because now it was somebody who was holding me accountable, will agree deliverables. As I said, I hate process. One of the things that the mentor will help me to put in place was processes. It's meetings. Me, I don't have meetings. With my staff, no. I just speak to people on the corridors, hey, you must do this and that's it. No meetings. I don't like formal stuff. You know what I mean? And that is why serving in a church board also is a bit, because I'm not the meeting guy. I'm a doer. I'm not, meetings, people meet about, when they come, they meet to decide on a meeting that must be held about another meeting. No. I'm not that guy, And therefore, my mentor introduced or helped me to introduce processes in my businesses. For I had to account now. What have I done? Have I met with my direct reports? Do they have KPIs? Me, nobody had a job offer or a job description in my business. I'll say, Phil, I want you to come join my marketing team, run Facebook, and then you'll figure out the rest. It's like, I'm not that formal. We'll agree the money to be paid to you, Zechariah, and that's it. But don't ask me for a piece of paper. I'll pay you on time, but you'll never get an appointment letter from me. No, it's not me. No contract. What contract? I don't deal with such things. You know what I mean? And thank God, up until now, it has not backfired. You know what I mean? But I moved from being blacklisted. I recovered everything I lost. I made even more money. Today, I have two businesses because through the school gave birth to the second business, which I have now, which is the trucking business. I transport coal. I've been running that business since lockdown 2021. But also we invested in supplying the mines with what we call lighting plants, which we started in 2020 during lockdown. Therefore, I've started other businesses, but the key was the school. The key was leaving your comfortable job, which gave you security. And you ventured into the unknown. You faced challenges, but you developed enough thick skin to be able to enjoy it all so that you can achieve your goal. And in closing, I want to say the following. When I was going through a number of challenges, because it was not just business, at some point I was engaged to another lady to marry. That was in 2011. And 2 months before the wedding day, it all fell apart. We called, and the invitation cards were out, Profil. Everybody knew, and then we just called it off. And one day I'll come talk to the young people about these kind of things. But when I went through everything, including the challenges in business, Joseph was my motivator. Why Joseph? Because the Bible tells us that Joseph told his brothers, he told his father that he had a dream.
Yeah.
Joseph was called by his own a dreamer. When they saw him from afar, they said, there comes the dreamer.
Yeah.
They then came up with a plan to kill him. They end up selling him to the Midianites, who sold him to the Egyptians, right? But they didn't know, including Joseph, that what he was going through, that hardship, was meant to lead to him arriving to his destination. He didn't know. And often then preachers will say, God doesn't tell you how things will unfold. And for me, Joseph became that guy. That in the midst of it all, as uncomfortable as it was, I knew how his story ended.
Yeah.
Similarly, today, people who do not know me and who do not know what I went through, they'll say maybe this guy was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but they don't know. And that's the beauty about life, is that you need to have a conviction. And I want to repeat this thing. Your vision is your vision. Do not expect another person's view to buy into your dream. It's your dream. It's not theirs. And even Tina Bazalwane, we can sometimes be negative and say, but Sis Vuyo, what do you see? Kulo Puto Hola 28,000 Ufuza no 105. Don't you see who you are? Don't you see that this guy is trying to? We are like that. We are human. We are carnal. You know what I mean? But we need God to help us. And God is helping us. You know what I mean? And that is why today, my wife will tell you, and she wanted to come, that like I'm a big spender. I spend. Because what I believe in is that I work hard. And if I have to pay myself, I love beautiful things in life. And therefore, I need to reward myself. Because when I work hard to make money. I already have that Louis Vuitton sneaker or that Gucci sneaker. You get what I'm saying? Because remember I said to you guys, there are some of God people who are boring. I don't want to be the boring Mzalwan that I didn't want, when I was young. Therefore, let us be aware that let's work hard, but also hard work will actually give birth to profitability, and profitability will afford us the kind of life that we all want. You know what I mean? Maybe let me stop here. Let me stop here, Professor.
Sure. Thank you.
Cool.
I think I'll open up about 5 minutes actually of questions right now, actually, for Mr. Nathi. I'm looking at time, but I'm also like, well, I mean, we can definitely allow for a Q&A session. I think we're going to have a formal one next week, though, Sister Zeki. I don't know. But that's if you're available, sir, for next week. But I think it is definitely much needed. Thank you very much. I mean, I've got questions of my own. Does anybody have a question, by the way? Right up? Oh, should I? Oh,
No, ladies first.
Okay, yeah, ladies first. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. All right. Okay. Maybe for you, it came in a different form to identify what form of business to go into. It sounds like you identified where a gap is, maybe in our community. How would be another way that one, because you say there's people that know what they want to do and others that don't know what to do. How would one know what would be a suitable business for them? Because, these days they always advise that one stream of income is not enough. Your salary is just there to pay your debts. But if you want to live a bit of an extra life above your salary, rather start a business, find something to do, start small and all of that. What would you advise? How would one really look into finding opportunities? Do you really have to look into what you like, or rather study and research where the gap is around you? That's my first question. And then secondly, it's just got to do with your mentor, because I was asking myself all along when you were speaking that, but you should have started with the mentor, and then you mentioned the mentor. Then I said to myself, okay, did he choose someone from? This is just for interest sake. Someone who was in that line of business of education as well, or it was just a random person who you looked up to as a business person who's doing well and you thought he can advise you in that fraternity of education?
No, thanks. How do you identify the sort of space to go if you want to start business? I always say you want to read, you want to identify a gap. But number two, for me, is to identify what are these natural things, what are these things that comes naturally to you. I'll give you an example. I went to a funeral last week, Wednesday, with Brother Nkosi. Yes, Nkosi from church, right? Therefore, after that, I went to drop him at his house. If he tells me this is what he wants to do, I know him, he loves the Lord, he serves. He's very passionate about the work of God. I say, dude, I hear you. Brilliant stuff. What you want to do in your house, great. But then now, how do we get to do all of these things with the kind of job that you have? Every time I speak to him, he's helping his cousins with maths. You know what I mean? That's what he does. He always speaks about his cousins, or his not cousins, nephews and nieces and all of that. Then I say to him, look at where you stay. What can you hear? He said, we hear kids making noise, playing. It was in the afternoon. I said, yeah. Look how many houses are around here. Look at these tall buildings, these flats, because they have like these normal houses, then they've got these tall buildings where he stays. I said, now, you're going to print a flyer or flyers, going to go house to house. You're going to tell him. He's got a garage. Therefore, I said, you're going to structure lessons in your garage that says 9 to 10 or 9 to and 9:45. 45 minutes, you're targeting, let's say, the grades 8, standard 6, grade 8. And then at 10 to go to 11, you do another grade. You start in your neighborhood because you love maths. You know what I mean? Therefore, you teach because it comes natural to you. You don't have to start with, and I said, because looking at where you stay, you can just say it's 100 Rand a month. You don't have to charge something that is unaffordable because it can become then that gatekeeper, right? You start, I said to him, don't think about 10,000 Rand. If you make 1,000 Rand because you have 10 kids, it's 1,000 Rand you never had. But oftentimes we want to make the big money. You know what I mean? We don't want to start small. We're thinking big. So I'm just trying to say to you, look at the things. For me, when I finished matric in 1999, in 2000, I didn't go to tertiary to study. My grandmother didn't have money. However, in one of the high schools back at home, the maths and the geography teacher resigned. The lady who was teaching maths was also teaching geography. For the department said, we're not going to replace the teacher because the principal and the teacher had a fallout. Therefore, they were like, we're not going to entertain. For now, I went into that school to start teaching maths. Can you see now? I started by teaching maths. When I got to vets, I tutored accounting too. And then through a cousin of mine's friend, then I got into UNISA's MBL program, where I was tutoring the syndicate groups, financial accounting and management accounting, and eventually my school. But don't despise the days of small beginning. For what is it that you do that comes natural? You know what I mean? Therefore, you don't, for an example, you could be arranging flowers here at church to be here on the stage to look nice. But it comes natural to you. And guess what now? If we are having a summer day, you could be arranging flowers and say, fathers, buy for your wives or whatsoever. It could grow from there. Some people are good cooks. You know what I mean? Therefore, that could give birth to a business. Because to you, it comes naturally. Unlike in my wife. My wife's not a great cook. I don't even think she's a good cook. But she's good in other things. You know what I mean? Therefore, there's some people who can cook. And therefore, you can make money. There's some people who can bake. People like me love scones from Vero's kitchen. You know what I mean? But Vero needs a competition.
Yeah.
She's been there. She's making so much money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And at some point, I wanted to invest in that business. You know, because I used to go there, I buy the scones and everything that she sells. Therefore, look at what you do that just comes naturally. And you could even look in your line of business, which is what many people tend, in your line of profession. Now you want to start some consulting thing, but you've got to look at whether your company will allow such. You know what I mean? Mentor. I was lucky. My first mentor was not appointed by me or not approached by me. When I joined SCMB at the time, they appointed a mentor for me. And for now, he became a mentor for life. And the second mentor in business, then this venture capitalist that I said invested in my business. Then they appointed the mentor for me. Therefore, I was lucky in that sense. But the mentorship that I intentionally went to get was through YouTube videos, was through books. If you come to my house, I've got a study. I've got books. And my wife will tell you that there is only 1% of all the books I've bought. I have books in their hundreds. Only 1% are finished. Because I'll buy a book just to get to a chapter. Because I know what I want out of it. I don't read everything. I go to what I want. For that's the sort of mentorship that I also got through gleaning into people's journey and get what I want. And then I'll ask people, I'll attend then seminars because those have worked as well. You know, business workshops, connect with people. She spoke about being an introvert. I used to think I'm an introvert until I got to church. You know what I mean? It's only when I'm at church that I really come alive. But generally, I think of myself as an introvert. But be intentional, you know, about the sort of things that you want and then see where you can get it, you know. And even if you ask somebody to just, you know, spare like an hour or two, you ask them all the questions and that's it. Because some people don't have the time, you know, to mentor people. Yeah. But other people have the time. We saw with Brother Hamilton, how many people he mentored. It's like one of the guy who spoke at the memorial service, like Mushe. Mushe is a friend of mine, and therefore will bounce ideas about business before he started business. And therefore we'll share, we'll compare notes, and that will be that. You know, but it didn't mean that now we have a formal mentorship program. You know, we just use the social, ask questions, compare notes, and that's it. You know? Sure.
Oh, is it on me?
Yeah.
Quick one on my end. So, I've got a couple of things actually. First one's about SARS. If you're starting a business and you work for somebody, but you want to, start your own thing, then how do you manage SARS? Because then there's this like pile of money coming into your bank account that's sometimes maybe larger than your salary. Then how do you get out of the red zone essentially? Because this is something that I try to maneuver in my own way, but I think I don't want to. These auditors from SARS are pretty thorough because 30 years down the line, these guys may come after me or something. Like, Phil, we see 30 years ago, you had this money coming to your account, but it was never taxed on or something like that. So how do you do paperwork on that? Or is it like, especially in the South African economy, are you allowed to just start a business where you're earning something more? Like, let's say from the client, they give you 26,000 Rand, small numbers, right? 26,000 Rand into your account just like that, and they're like, which is untaxed, then how do you need to justify that amount of money, or is there a cap that you justify from? Maybe 100,000 Rand comes to your account, then they would start being suspicious a little bit. I don't know. That's the first question. And the other one is, if now it's the two of you, how do you spread equity between the two of you? If you're, in my specific example, I would classify myself as the main visionary, because not only do I bring this expertise, but the financial aspect of it is 100% financed by me, actually. Then how do you spread equity between you and your co-founder, essentially, in that case? Would you go 80-20, or is it 100% you, or is it, something like that? Yeah, so.
I think let's start with the last one. It's very easy, right?
Okay.
Honest conversation.
Yeah.
When you start anything with anybody, that honest conversation. I think it is scriptural. The Bible says, can two walk together unless they agree? No. You've got to then agree. You've got to sit down and say, this is the vision. I'd like to bring you on board, but these are the expectations that I have, and this is the equity that I will allocate for the time that you will contribute towards the business. For its honesty.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you tell the person, I like you to contribute time. I don't need money. If you do need money, you also tell them. But most of the time, people don't want to give money because they also have, limited reserves or resources. Therefore, if you need time from them, you tell them how much time I need from you in exchange for X amount of equity. When I started my business, I mentioned the board. Therefore, now I had to put a business plan, and then I went on a fundraising drive. I valued my own business at the time at 10 million. Then I said everybody then must bring 50,000. Then I give you another 50,000 shares for free. If you give me 50,000, I give you 100,000 of shares. Yeah. That's what I did. And then I justified my numbers through the model that I showed the guys. This is the sort of revenue that will flow. You know what I mean? Therefore, you can do something similar, but it gets too complicated for the non-accountant people to get into the numbers. Yeah. Just like, have a conversation. Be honest as well in terms of how much you're willing to give. They often say, don't give equity too quick in your business, because you may need to use equity at a later stage, to attract strategic people into your business, more especially skilled resources into your business. Therefore, you've got to be careful how much equity you give out in the early stage. And when it comes to the SARS issue, SARS doesn't really interfere too much with people's bank account until you buy an asset. Why do I say that? When you go buy a car or you go buy a house, the banks are obligated to tell SARS. You sign a form, they tell SARS. Therefore, when money goes into your account per se, SARS will not know. The people who may suspect is your bank. If now all of a Sunday there's been like 10,000 Rand going to your account, and now it moves to 100,000, and there's regular payment, and these monies don't even stay, they get moved out and all of that could raise, some eyebrows. But you don't have to worry too much about SARS. But what I can say is that when you start a business, it's very important as well to go and register with SARS. Make sure that your tax affairs are in order. I often say to people, right now, in my businesses, I don't pay myself what I am worth. Okay? I pay myself enough to meet my monthly obligation. Why?
Okay.
Yeah, I probably earn less than all of you guys. You know what I mean? Why? Because I know if I give myself too much money, that money goes to SARS.
Yeah.
Therefore, I pay myself enough to, to just, pay the medical aid, in the bond, and that's it. Therefore, if I need money, I declare a dividend. Therefore, I'm in a bracket of 45%, right, according to SARS. So now, if I pay myself an extra 100,000, 45,000 goes to SARS. But then now, what I do, then I pay myself a dividend.
Yeah.
A dividend is 20%. Can you see now? I can pay myself a salary, 45% goes to SARS. But if I pay myself a dividend, only 20% goes to SARS.
Yeah.
So that's how I play the system. And it's legal. Remember, there's a difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion.
Yeah.
Therefore, I pay myself enough, very little money.
Yeah. So this is what they see going into your personal
Yeah.
bank
Yes.
account. Okay.
Yeah. SARS doesn't see too much money going to my account. I don't want too much money.
Got you now.
But then now, when you're a business person, now there are creative ways.
Yeah.
For example, my son's school fees doesn't come from my salary. It's a business expense.
Got you.
You get what I'm saying? My medical aid now, I changed it recently. I no longer pay now my own medical aid. The business pays. For example, the trucking business, because I don't get a salary from the trucking business. So what I've done now, I made the trucking business to pay the medical aid. The other challenge of being self-employed, unlike when you're employed, how much retirement annuity fund to pay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can ignore those things, but they will catch up with you. For now, I know my RAF, I've increased it to a big amount from the trucking business. The medical aid from the trucking business. My kids' school fees from the trucking business. Because these are expenses that you can deduct. Then now, if I need money, maybe I saw a nice Gucci. Therefore, I declare a dividend, just go buy there. But you see, like I don't buy this Gucci for myself. Because I'm like a simple guy, right? But I buy all the Gucci's for my wife. You know what I mean? But you need to be smarter.
Yeah.
There's certain things that then you can do through your business. For an example, when I bought my rental property in Durban, right? For what used to happen is that we had a branch in Durban for my school. Therefore, every Friday, we fly the lecturers from Joburg because we were struggling to find guys there. Therefore, I struggled to find lecturers in Durban. We'll fly them to Durban. We book them in a hotel. And then I pay the hotel. Then I realized, no, man. This thing's too much. Every weekend. For now, I bought a property in Mhlanga. What did I do? Then my school signed the lease agreement for 3 years. Then I took the lease to the bank. I said, I want to buy this. This company will be renting for 3 years.
Yeah.
That's what I did. Therefore, the bank approved.
Yeah.
It was legal. Therefore, I'm saying there are lots of other things that you don't get taught at school that you are able to do.
Yeah.
Today, I've got the property. Now, I've rented it because during lockdown, we had to shut down the branch in Mhlanga, but move everything to online.
Yeah.
But today, the property is there. This lady who's renting it uses it as an Airbnb. You know what I mean? It's earning income. Therefore, you're talking about streams of income. For now, I've got this property that is there. And the beauty as well is that when your business makes enough money, you can take that money, put it in your bond. Yes, your business money. Remember, it's your bond. In your personal capacity.
Yes.
But you can take your business money. Because if you take your business money, you invest it in a bank, you get 1%, 2%. But you take your business money, you put it in your personal bond. Remember how much is your bond? What's the interest? Right now. It's almost 11% or something like that.
Yeah.
Therefore, it means now when you take your business money, put it in your bond, you save on the interest. When the business then needs that money, then you can always transfer it because it's access bond. You can access it anytime.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm saying there are lots of other strategies that you don't get taught in a business school. You know, it's like my staff were asking me, because we're reading a story about Sim Shabalala, the CEO of Standard Bank, and these big monies that they earn. These guys wanted to know, what do these guys do with this money? I said, you see all these fancy cars on the road? People don't buy these fancy cars on installment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you take your money, if for an example, you have a 3 million rand car, you should think now, how much is his or her house worth?
Yeah.
Therefore now when you have money, you put it in your bond. When you want to buy the fancy car, you take from the bond because it's the cheapest form of financing. Because it's a secured lending. If you take the money from the bond, you put it, you'll rather, at some point I paid one of my properties in Velterfred and Park, but I left it to owe 1,000 rand. Therefore now the bank had to recalculate the installment, it's like 50 bucks. But the reason why I kept it like that, it's so that when I need that excess money, because if you say to the bank, no, I have now a fully paid house, you know, like when we meet, you want to claim, hey, I have a fully paid house. It's great. But now when an emergency comes, you can't access that money. You keep that money in your excess bond. You know, that is why smart people like yourselves, all your excess money, you put it in your bond. Yeah. Those who own property. Because that money, it saves you the interest, but whenever an emergency comes, you can be able to access it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the SARS topic, very important. Make sure that everything is in order, but you can be able to manipulate the SARS system in a legal way. For an example, I said my kids' school fees, right, is paid by my company. Therefore now, according to SARS, that is a fringe benefit. For there's a formula that they use, but it results in me being in a better position than if I had paid myself a salary and then use that to pay my schools, my kids' school fees. Therefore, there are many other things, you know, creative stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm clear, sir.
Sure.
Thank you. Many more questions on that, but I'll hand it over to you, Leah.
Okay, mine is not really a question, but it's more like a sharing.
Yeah.
Before, I used to want to be a CEO of a JC listed company. But in the last 2 years, my dream has changed. So my dream now is to actually have a school. So when you talk about schools, I get very excited because something that I'm passionate about. And I've been asking God about the model that I'm supposed to use. And before, I just wanted to have like a primary school to high school and have mini schools like that over the country. But now I went recently to the center that I went to in Bramfontein, and they have an ECD center as well. And in South Africa currently, we have a very weak ECD center.
Yes.
So when you were talking, I was just like writing everything down because I'm thinking, okay, how do I do this? And I've been asking God on how to do it and when to do it. Especially because when you employ it, you get scared to start anything because you're so secure in what you're doing.
Yes.
And maybe my question is, how did you, I know you said that you had faith, right? Now I have faith, but it's very difficult when you have responsibilities, you have bonds to pay, you have costs to pay, you have families to support, that you start that business. And also when you don't know how it will end up, right? And I know you did your business plan, you had your boards of people that were like supporting you and advising you, and your mentors. But to get that thing to just do it and start, how do you do it? Because I want to do it sooner than later, because Uthixo has just been putting this in my heart. But the schools currently are just so distorted in the way they do things, and kids are getting confused. And I think my schools can solve that problem. But how do I start?
Yes.
And also when your mom is saying, no, you can't do that, because you won't be able to support us anymore because you have this business. So how do you get over that?
No, thanks. I think that's a great question. And it's where most people actually find themselves. Because they've got this idea, but then there's this false security that comes from your job. I'm saying it's false because it makes things look rosy. But the truth of the matter, I always, say to my wife, you need to get Pastor John to approve your leave. And sometimes you frustrate the kids and I because we want to go on holiday. And you are saying you don't have enough leave days. That's the beauty of a life I enjoy. Today I spent my time in Tembisa, like first time in Tembisa, right? Went to a school. If you go to Brother Percy's Facebook, you'll see we're with children, right? In a school. A school that is similar to what you want to do because it's owned by Christians. It's a school with 1,800 kids. The principal there just started another school in downtown Joburg that has 400 kids. He has another school in Primrose by Jamestown, somewhere there, that has 1,400. He's Christian. He used to run the Assemblies of God, Henley on Cliff. Now, what I want to say is that you can be like me. As you're starting, as you are busy finalizing your research, then you do it parallel. When I started my school in 2013, I was using, because the target was the working guys initially, I was using the boardrooms at Nedbank. If I'll wait for everybody to knock off at 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., I ran classes in Nedbank, in the boardroom. And on weekends, I ran my classes there. Because I was testing the pilot. Because in business, there's something we call a minimum viable concept, right? In MVP, right? A minimum viable product. Because you want to test and see if this concept that you have will be acceptable by the market. You understand what I'm saying? Therefore, you can do it parallel. Because one of the biggest challenges that we face is the fact that we don't have funding. Therefore, you use your job then to bootstrap. We call it bootstrapping, where you use your salary to fund your idea. That's what I did. And that is why then I had to prolong, my exit at Nedbank because I needed that salary to, Therefore, you can start. The Department of Education allows you, when you register, you start with 1 grade. Where you can start with, let's say, with a grade 1. And then you move to grade 2 because you're testing the concept. You know what I mean? And you can look at areas like downtown or CBDs, whether here or at home. You can test it because now you need a smaller space, to test the concept and see if it's viable. The thing is this: the Bible says in the book of 1 Timothy, we have not been given a spirit of fear, but a sound mind and power. For the fear will always be there. It's the one thing that holds us back. That is why many of us will never realize our dreams. Miles Monroe says the richest place on earth is the graveyard. Because there lie songs that were never sang. Dreams that never saw the light of day. Therefore, fear is always there. But I look at myself and the kind of life, I'm a very happy dude. Yes, business can be stressful at times, but I look at my life, I'm like, people will say, don't you want to go back to corporate? I'm like, over my dead body, what will I go do there? To have a boss, John, tell me what to do, control my time. Right now, I control other people's time. I didn't go to the office today. I only go to the office because I want to, because I've got a team now. My school is functioning without me. My trucking business, yes, it still needs me every now and then. But I live my life. My best life, I only turned 41 recently. I'm very happy. And I see my life turning out like this. Therefore, take money from these businesses. I invest in something else. I invest in other people's ideas now. You know what I mean? Therefore, you've got to look ukuthi le phupho lakho likuhlupha kangakanani. If it really burdens you, you know that you've got to start. You know what I mean? I'm sorry to give you another scripture, but the Bible tells us of the 4 lepers, who had been cast out. Then they asked themselves, why sit we here till we die? You can stay up as John, but believe me, you'll become an employee until you go on pension. Will that fulfill you? Because for me, Even when my school business was going through the tough time, I was still content. I was still fulfilled because I was doing something I was passionate about, something I love. Therefore, you've got to make the call. And I understand that family, sometimes they put the pressure, Vuyo, who will support us, and basafuna nabazukulu, basafuna yonke lento. But the truth is, how do you sleep at night? Are you happy? If you're happy, it's great. But if you are burdened by this dream, you know that you've got to move. But you can do it parallel. You can put together a team. You can appoint people. You can oversee the whole thing. You can find one of these schools that are in town. There are lots of schools in town that are small. You can invest. You can buy them out. You can do a lot of things. You don't have to start from scratch. You know what I mean? Yes. Cool.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions? No. So for my end, I do have one more. So now you've got this job and you're starting. Do you register when you're testing out the product during your MVP phase, or do you register after?
It depends. It depends on the type of business. You know what I mean? For example, if I'm doing software development, it may not be necessary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The beauty about registering is that you pay less tax than you would if the money came straight into your bank account.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it depends on the type of business and the projected income that the business will generate, you know, and how do you want to go out there? You know, let me tell you, there is so much money in South Africa that is available to people, but people are not aware of it. For example, if you took Bragaps, Usisila, and yourself, you guys are techie people. You know that you can register like an IT training business, and you go to an MICT CETA, you register with them, and then you can get grants. Where now you go, let's say you go to Soweto, you find a center, you bring in people, you teach them coding. But you're not going to be teaching them with your money. You go to the CETA, you apply for a grant, they give you 35,000 rand per student. You guys find a hall in Soweto, you rent, you run classes. In 2020, we got a grant funding from one of the CETAs of 9 million to find kids who were unemployed and graduates that were unemployed and help them to obtain a professional qualification in accounting. There is so much money available in the CETAs, but people don't know. Every industry belongs to a CETA. That CETA spends money in skills development. But we can take it outside of here.
Yeah.
I'm happy to share ideas.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, guys, there is money in South Africa.
You don't have to leave.
You know, there is a lot of money, and that money just needs your ideas. And one last thing as we close. It doesn't hurt to start pro bono. Build the clientele. Test your concept. Refine